Bow down before the true god of war. We dove deep into the bowels of the underworld, and now we're here to present you with 107 facts about Kratos and his battle against the gods of Olympus. Beloved hack and slash series exclusive to the PlayStation line of consoles, the God of War series takes players on a guided murder tour of Greek mythology. That said, there's actually a lot of depth and attention to detail to explore in this game. Will you survive the carnage of truth we're about to bestow upon you? My name is Brittany, and today on the Leaderboard we are counting down 107 facts about the God of War series. Let's get cracking.
Fact 1. The main God of War trilogy and its prequel, God of War Ascension, were developed by Sony Santa Monica Studio and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Fact 2. God of War was the second game internally developed by Sony Santa Monica Studios, and their fifth game overall. Fact 3. The portable God of War titles, Chains of Olympus and Ghosts of Sparta, were developed by Ready at Dawn Studios. Chains of Olympus won the relatively new studio critical acclaim and a handful of other awards. Fact 4. Despite being the first game in the series, God of War is the third game chronologically. Fact 5. In 2007, a 2D side-scrolling mobile game was released starring the bloodlust-crazed Kratos, titled God of War Betrayal. At the time, it was easily the most violent game available on your phone. After all, it would be 2 years before those psychotic birds would take their vengeance on egg-stealing pigs. Fact 6. The first God of War game was released for the PS2 on March 22, 2005, to the dismay of Mythology teachers everywhere. Fact 7. It was created and directed by David Jaffe, someone who has experience with chaos and madness. After I've worked on several games in the Twisted Metal series, do you guys remember how crazy those were? Fact 8. The series was inspired by Capcom's Onimusha. After playing it, David Jaffe had the brilliant idea, let's do that with Greek mythology. Fact 9. Jaffe actually credits Ray Harryhausen, the special effects guru behind Clash of the Titans and other classics, as a major influence on the game's design. Fact 10. He further decided he wanted to combine the scope of Clash of the Titans with Heavy Metal magazine. So basically, fun, epic storytelling fantasy of Greek mythology blended with sex and violence. Fact 11. These games all take place in fictionalized versions of real locations, including the Aegean Sea and Athens, or on places based on mythology like the Temple of Pandora and Mount Olympus. No word on the accuracy of the underworld though. Fact 12. God of War 2 was even set to show Atlantis as a whole world, but it was cut due to budget and time constraints. Sad, because the world is clamoring to know what Atlantis truly looked like. Fact 13. The main anti-hero of the series is Kratos, a former servant of Ares, the actual god of war in Greek mythology. Kratos has had all sorts of bad things happen to him over his life. Much more on that later. Fact 14. Because of all these tragedies, Kratos doesn't tend to smile very often. Jaffe stated that the inspiration for Kratos' sour expression came from Edward Norton in American History X. Fact 15. However, in all of the God of War games, Kratos does smile once. It is brief, and it happens when he is holding his dollar calliope in the air during Chains of Olympus. Fact 16. The Sony team stated the original idea for God of War 3 revolved around Kratos moving on from Greek to Norse and Egyptian mythology, taking down each system of polytheism and eventually setting up the events for monotheism, a la Christianity, and for Kratos to become death itself. Nope, not overambitious at all. Fact 17. The idea for that was for Kratos to basically distract the other gods from ruling mortals, who would then lose faith in gods altogether, and this would, in turn, weaken the deities and make them easier to kill. Fact 18. The creator said that the reason God of War 2 appeared on the PlayStation 2 instead of the PlayStation 3, which was released 4 months prior to God of War 2, was because there were 100 million people out there who could play God of War 2 as soon as it launches. They assured the public that the game would be playable on the newer platform, which had PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. Fact 19. It's hard to talk about these games without talking a little about the underlying Greek mythology. Kratos is a real character from Greek myth, the personification of power and strength, and one of the 4 winged enforcers of Zeus, the king of the gods. Fact 20. The other 3 enforcers were Kratos' siblings, Nike, Bia, and Zelus. All of them were the children of Titans Pallas and Styx. Fact 21. Some say that Kratos was the illegitimate child of Zeus and a mortal woman. Foreshadowing. Fact 22. Either way, according to the game designers, Kratos stands 8 feet tall, which should be a surefire giveaway that the guy has a little non-human blood in him. Fact 23. In the God of War universe, Kratos only has one brother. His name is Deimos, after the Greek god of terror. He had a strange birthmark. Remember this, it's important. Fact 24. An oracle had foretold that Olympus would fall, not because of the Titans, a major threat which the gods had imprisoned earlier, but by the hands of a marked warrior. Wonder who that could be. Fact 25. Deimos was born with a red birthmark on his face. See? Told you it was important. And Zeus and Ares believed he was the warrior who would take down Olympus. So Ares and Athena interrupted Kratos and Deimos' training and kidnapped Deimos. Kratos tried to intervene and was brushed aside by Ares, leaving him with a scar across his eye. Ares imprisoned Deimos in death death domain, and there he was tortured by Thanatos. Fact 26, the super awkward coincidence in Greek mythology is that Deimos is actually the son of Ares and Aphrodite. Fact 27, Kratos emblazoned his face with a signature red tattoo in honor of his brother's birthmark, which makes his face tattoo much more personal than Mike Tyson's. Fact 28, speaking of that tattoo, Kratos was originally supposed to have blue, not red tattoos, but the development team changed the look once they realized how similar Kratos would look to the barbarian from Diablo 2. Fact 29, Kratos' tattoo changes slightly in design from game to game. In the first game, it stretches from his chest from close to his sternum to past his left nipple. In the second, it's closer to his nipple. In the third and final game, it doesn't cover his nipple at all. Will you guys stop looking at his nipples? Fact 30, also his tattoo in God of War circled more of his left arm, but in games afterwards, it does not. Fact 31, you may look at Kratos and be like, but wait, those red tattoos really pop on his ashy white skin. Why is his skin so white? Turns out there's a bit of a storyline there. You see, they're ashes. The ashes of his murdered wife Lysandra and his daughter Calliope. Fact 32, also, that ashy skin, that's where Kratos gets his nickname, the Ghost of Sparta. Fact 33, but who murdered his wife and child? It seems like every answer creates more questions. Well, let's go back a little further to the God of War mythology, then to figure that out. It's a long story, but the short answer is Kratos himself. He was tricked into it. Fact 34, Kratos was a soldier in the Spartan army, married with a lovely child. Seemed like he had a great life, except he was hungry for more.
Fact 35. Then, tragedy struck. Calliope, his daughter, contracted the plague and was fated to die. Kratos wanted to do anything he could to save her, and so he was sent on a quest to find the ambrosia of Asclepius, an elixir with magical healing properties.
Fact 36. Asclepius is the Greek god of medicine, and ambrosia is known in Greek myth to grant longevity of life or immortality. Fact 37. The gods Artemis, Hades, Helios, Hermes, and Poseidon all bet on who would find the ambrosia. Fact 38. One of the warriors Kratos kills to get the ambrosia was Hades' champion Ulrich, the prince of the barbarians. Hades, being the god of the underworld and all, doesn't take losing very well. He resurrects Ulrich, who becomes the barbarian king and swears vengeance against Kratos. Fact 39. Kratos, meanwhile, gets promoted to the rank of captain of the Spartan army for bringing back the ambrosia. He also gets to heal his daughter and lead the army to several more victories, and he lived happily ever after. Then they do one of those jump poses things where they freeze in midair and the credits roll. Fact 40. Kidding. Ulrich, the barbarian king, is still pretty pissed off, and now he has an entire horde of barbarians at his command. So he attacks Kratos and the Spartan army, who fight to the brink of total annihilation. Fact 41. Kratos is backed into a corner and calls out for Ares for help. In exchange for sparing his men and giving him the power it would take to destroy his enemies, Kratos offers to serve Ares, and Ares agrees.
Fact 42. Ares provides Kratos with his signature weapon, a pair of chain blades named the Blades of Chaos,
Forged in the depths of Tartarus,
a deep part of the underworld. Kratos promptly uses them to remove the barbarian king's head from the rest of his body.
Fact 43. It's revealed in God of War 3 that Tartarus is actually the legendary battleground between the gods and the Titans, though in God of War 2, Atlas claims that the Great War forged a landscape for the mortal world, not the underworld. Fact 44. Chaos entered into an extended period of fighting in Ares' name. Eventually, this led to an attack on a village occupied by worshippers of Athena. Ares, being a hardened warrior and also a friggin' jerk, had secretly transported Kratos' wife and child to the village. Ares believed that killing his wife and child would free Kratos to be a perfect warrior, and indeed, during his frenzied attack on the temple, Kratos accidentally killed his family. Fact 45. The Oracle of the destroyed village cursed Kratos by bonding the ashes of his dead family to his skin, turning it white. Fact 46. That brings us full circle, so that's enough about history. Let's talk about some of the voices that can be heard throughout the God of War franchise. Our main guy, Kratos, is voiced by Terrence T.C. Carson, who is also in the sitcom Living Single, and later the voice of Mace Windu in Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Fact 47. Ares is voiced by veteran voice actor Steve Blum in God of War and God of War Ascension, and by Fred Tatasciore in God of War 3.
Fact 48. Perseus, as seen in God of War 2, is voiced by Harry Hamlin, who also happened to play Perseus in the classic 1981 Clash of the Titans. Fact 49. There isn't much that screams Disney in the God of War series except for one particular actress. From the show Good Luck Charlie, Leanne Baker voiced a character in God of War 2. Her name, Bathhouse Girl 2, and she appears during the God of War 2 sex minigame. Mickey would not approve. Fact 50. That's a good segue for a short little diversion. In the immortal words of Salt and Pepper, let's talk about sex. God of War has been known for having many topless women and sexual acts. In fairness, this was a big theme in Greek mythology, and if you ever read Ovid, God of War is tame by comparison. Fact 51. It was revealed in the novelization that those twins Kratos can spend some intimate time with are named Zora and Laura, because of course they are the daughters of Aphrodite. Fact 52. It isn't until God of War 3 that Kratos finally accidentally runs into Aphrodite and has relations with her, which will reward you with red orbs. Aphrodite, after all, has been an admirer throughout the series, and so why wouldn't she give Kratos a little extra something? Fact 53, she has also been known to be pansexual, as she was having sex with her handmaidens before inviting Kratos. Hey, you don't get to be goddess of love by reading books. Fact 54, she's also sleeping with Ares, who Kratos is trying to kill. Lots of complications all around God of War. Yep, lots of complications. Fact 55, can you blame Aphrodite for having sex on her mind though? In the games, she is the daughter of Zeus, but in mythology, she was born after Uranus's genitalia were cut off and thrown into the sea. Yikes. Fact 56, okay, enough about that. Back to the voices. In God of War 2 and 3, the voice of Zeus is played by Corey Burton, who also plays Zeus in the Hercules animated series by Disney. Fact 57, but he's not the only one who found a role for themselves playing Greek gods. In God of War and God of War 2, Athena is voiced by Carol Rougier, who also voiced Athena in the video game Age of Mythology. Fact 58, meanwhile, what would a video game from the 2000s be without an appearance by Nolan North, star of Uncharted, Assassin's Creed, and so many other massive franchises? In God of War, he played Hades, god of the underworld. Fact 59, God of War 3 really ramped up the guest voices. Hephaestus is voiced by Rip Torn of Dodgeball and Men in Black fame. Fact 60, Hades in God of War 3 is voiced by Clancy Brown, that guy from a million movies and TV shows including Shawshank Redemption, Starship Troopers, and SpongeBob SquarePants. He's the voice of Mr. Krabs. Fact 61, Hercules pops up in God of War 3. The name Hercules is actually Roman, contradicting the Greek nature of these games. He should instead be known as Heracles. Personally, I prefer Hercules. Get it? Get it? Fact 62, using his Roman name is more appropriate here, as his helmet is of centurion design and he has a lion motif, which fits the Roman gladiatorial battles. Fact 63, who could play the role of Hercules in God of War 3 and Ascension better than Kevin Sorbo, who previously portrayed the character in several television movies and television series. Fact 64, during God of War 3, Kratos enters a nightmare from Zeus. Within the nightmare, Kratos falls into the water where he will hear different voices. There's an Easter egg here. Once the voices stop, if Kratos stays in the water, he will hear his brother Deimos asking not to be left again. Fact 65, Deimos was voiced by actor and former Hobbit Elijah Wood. Fact 66, the God of War series has had its fair share of truly epic boss fights, starting with the Hydra from God of War, based on the multi-headed creature from Greek mythology that grows more heads as each is cut off. Fact 67, Kratos kills it by destroying its main head, called the Hydra King. However, in the original mythology, it was killed by Hercules, who destroyed it by cutting off its head and cauterizing the wound before it could grow back. Fact 68, this isn't the only time Kratos elbows in on Greek mythology to eat some other heroes' lunch. Kratos kills Medusa, the Gorgon queen, instead of the hero Perseus. Fact 69, because Perseus doesn't kill Medusa, it doesn't really make sense that he's still a renowned hero in-game. He was also unable to use Medusa's gaze on the sea monster Kratos to save Princess Andromeda from the Kraken, as his legend goes, and so she dies. He ends up at the Island of Creation to strike a deal with the Sisters of Fate and bring her back to life, where he meets and fights Kratos. Fact 70, the first boss fight in God of War 2, the Colossus of Rhodes, is based on a real statue that stood at the port of Rhodes. It was big enough that it caused a bronze shortage in the entire Greek Empire. Fact 71, the idea of the Colossus coming to life may have come from the myth of Talos, who was a bronze statue with only one weakness, a small nail in his ankle that held his veins shut. He was defeated by removing this nail and letting all of his ichor flow out. Ew. Fact 72. Poseidon is the first god seen in God of War and the first boss battle in God of War 3. Fact 73. Poseidon's character for God of War 3 was one of the most complex for the developers. It took them almost a full year to fully design his monstrous form. Fact 74. The PSP release, Chains of Olympus, continues the tradition of first bosses being large and multi-tiered with a massive basilisk. And no, stabbing a diary doesn't kill this one. Fact 75. Kratos has even taken down the ultimate bosses. His parents, they just don't understand. Kratos killed both his mother Callisto and Ghost of Sparta and his father Zeus in God of War 3. Fact 76. For how completely gigantic some of these boss battles got, God of War 3 features no true CGI sequences. Everything you see is 100% in-game. All camera features, including motion blur, run real time in the cinematics and in-game. Fact 77. There are quite a few recurring motifs that appear in the God of War games. In every game except for Chains of Olympus, Kratos loses all of his powers and must start his growth all over again. If you're a Metroid fan, you know the feeling well. Fact 78. In each of the main games, Kratos burns a man alive. The first is Sacrificial Soldier, and Prometheus for the second game, Toasty. Fact 79. In a gruesome twist, Kratos is killed at some point during all the main installments of the series by impalement through his abdomen. Fact 80. God of War series has a history of making rather silly unlockable costumes for its game, including Codivore, a fish costume, Dairy Bastard, a cow costume, and Bubbles, which gives Kratos a scuba mask and swimming shorts. Fact 81. In each game, game, there's at least one callback from one game to another. In God of War 3, during the wet caves of Hades, Kratos finds a note from a tortured soul that reads, "He could not have saved me. He held my life in his hand and he still let go. I might have just been a mere boat captain, but he treated me as if I was nothing. He is to blame for my torment here. I hope he suffers in Hades as I have. Damn that ghost of Sparta." This is a reference to the captain Kratos dropped down in the Hydra King's mouth after getting a key from the first God of War game. Talk about holding a grudge. Fact 82, aside from his appearances in God of War games, Kratos has popped up in tons of other media. He is a playable character in Soul Calibur Broken Destiny. This also marks the first time that Kratos appears in a teen-rated game. This is also his first crossover appearance in general, with Mortal Kombat being the second. Fact 83, war is not your thing? Well then, you can golf as Kratos in the game Hot Shots Golf Out of Bounds. Fact 84, in the 2008 The Simpsons game, a parody of Kratos can be seen in the background of a level on a billboard. The words God of War are written next to a picture of a Simpson-esque Kratos eating a bowl of chowder. Fact 85, as mentioned before, Kratos appears in the PS3 version of the 2000 game Mortal Kombat, with his own set of moves and a personal God of War battle arena. He is not, however, a part of the storyline. Red orbs appear in Mortal Kombat after Kratos defeats an enemy without the use of a fatality. Fact 86, due to demands by Sony, NetherRealms was forced to change his reaction to different fatalities, so as to not show him scared or panicked, but instead angered or enraged. Fact 87, as part of God of War 3's advertising, Kratos appeared on a NASCAR car in the March 2010 Bristol race. Fact 88, a playable demo was included in the District 9 Blu-ray disc, as well as being made available through PSN. It featured the city of Olympia with a condensed storyline and some missing features. Fact 89, Bit of War is an 8-bit God of War remake developed and created by Hallmade Games that follows some of David Jaff's original script ideas, and it's adorable. Fact 90, there were 6 God of War comics published by Wildstorm and DC Comics. The reception was not great, but they filled in some important background portions of Kratos' life before starting more with the gods. Fact 91, in case you want to experience the God of War story without all those pesky buttons and QuickTime events getting in your way, there is a novelization of the series that was released in 2010. Fact 92, apparently the God of War 2 launch event in May 2007 included a dead goat, just like hanging out as part of the scenery as a topless woman fed guests grapes and people threw knives at targets. Sony later apologized for this event, stating, "We recognize that the use of a dead goat was in poor taste and fell below our high standards of conduct we set ourselves." Fact 93, God of War 3 ended with a post-credit scene implying Kratos survived the end of the game, leaving the door open for another sequel, and it looks like it's in the works. Fact 94, Kratos is coming to the big screen, or at least he was supposed to. A movie for God of War has been in the works, first announced in 2005. At this point, no one really knows what has happened to it. Fact 95, in September 2010, Jaff said that the script went out a year and a half ago to Daniel Craig, who plays Bond, but he turned it down. Fact 96, God of War 1, 2, and 3 all scored above a 90 on Metacritic. Talk about a pedigree. Fact 97, in the PS3 re-release of God of War 1, there's a trophy called The Speed of Jason McDonald. It can be earned by beating the game in less than 5 hours, an office speedrun record held by none other than Jason McDonald himself, the lead combat designer for God of War 3. Fact 98, if Kratos solves the labyrinth without dying or falling, which is no easy feat, the player will receive a gold trophy amazed. Fact 99, God of War Ascension found itself in hot water over a trophy called Bros Before Hoes, which was earned after killing a certain female enemy. The resulting backlash pushed Sony Santa Monica to patch the achievement, changing it to Bros Before Foes. Fact 100, and my favorite one, God of War on the PlayStation 2 features 2 statues at the end of the game. Most would look past these 2 statues, especially after striking them and receiving no results. However, if you keep hitting them a few hundred times, they will actually break. Once broken, a scrambled code will show up giving you a 1-800 number. When called, the number will put you through to a conversation with Kratos and game director David Jaff. Eventually, Kratos kills David and ends the call. Fact 101, along with breaking the statues, completing the game on God mode would get the player another number. Calling the second number would play a message from Kratos talking about what happened to Ares after their fight. Turns out, Ares was totally fine and just went to a farm upstate. Fact 102, some Easter eggs take more effort than others. In Ascension, fans found and decoded a series of random letters seen in a painting, revealing a series of floor tiles the player had to activate in a specific order. If you do, the paintings change to a cryptic message. Fact 103, in God of War 1, there was a mild censor between the US and European releases. In Pandora's Temple, Kratos has to make a human sacrifice to get Pandora's box. In the European release, the soldiers are undead instead of conscious. Fact 104, by achieving a 999,999 hit combo in God of War 2, a URL for a website would appear, leading the player to www.islandofroads.com. This site is unfortunately no longer around. Fact 105, by gaining the Platinum Trophy in God of War 3, you were given the URL www.spartanstandtall.com, which eventually announced the release of God of War Ghost of Sparta. Fact 106, all told, God of War sold more than 4.6 million copies worldwide and is the 11th best-selling PS2 game of all time. Last but not least, fact 107, the God of War series altogether has sold more than 21 million copies.
No one can deny Kratos' vengeance, and no one can deny that you know a lot more about God of War than you did a few minutes ago. Congratulations! Which fact was your favorite? Is there one that you found noteworthy that wasn't featured in our list? Let us know in the comments below, along with what we should cover in our next 107 facts, and make sure you like and subscribe so that you'll never miss out on any future videos. My name is Brittany, and I'll see you next time.